and a 2 real. So it's probably 1800s, late 1700s, maybe, but probably in that time frame.
Okay. So what I was asking earlier is one of our regular questions we like to ask is if there is a white whale or something you really want, wish that's on your top of your wish list. Do you have a few of those items, or one item that you just have to find? It's a goal of yours.
So if I will slice it up by country. In the U.S., a pine tree coin.
Right.
A pine tree shilling. Just something. Those are just amazing. I mean, a 1600 coin, 1652, right. I think, right? And that'd be crazy. I'd prefer that over a gold coin. Let's say a newer gold coin. I would take the pine tree coin. And then over in England, it would have to be a Celtic gold.
Celtic gold, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Jay is in the book. Jay found one in his last trip in March. It's absolutely stunning. So someday, maybe. That's what keeps me going back to England. So maybe someday.
Now
hopefully I'll get to go soon.
Yeah. So right before this show, we were talking, and I'd have to say your website is one of the most intricate, has the most information I've seen out of so many detectorists. So can you tell us a little bit about it? And it's detectorist.com for those that are listening and not in chat.
Yeah. So when I started detecting, I wanted to get a really just generic name that sounded really professional. And I was surprised that detectorist.com was for sale. When I typed it in, I went right to like a domain site where they were selling it. It had a buy now button. I'm like, there's no way. That can't be. I had to have spelled it wrong. So I looked and I spelled it, typed it in again. I'm like, no, that's right. I would have thought like one of the manufacturers would have had it, or even a large reseller and just pointed it to their store. So I was like, okay, I bought it right away. And the goal for the website has always been, it's not for me, it's not, for other detectors, it's for permissions. So that site is built with a specific goal of communicating to a property owner how serious I am about saving history and what I've found in other places. And when I give them my business card or, a lot of times the farmland by us, there's no farmhouse on it. You look it up on the tax maps. It's somebody in New York or it's somebody in California. So I build a really nice packet for them. It's got map shots. It's got outlines of other properties I have permissions to, what I've found on those other properties. And it's got my URL for my website. And every single time somebody has called me from that packet, and I don't get 100% call rate from the packet. It's probably 30 to 40% I get a call. Every single person that's called me is giving me permission. So that site is strictly built to communicate to a landowner how serious I am about looking for history in the ground.
Wow. It's beautiful. I'm looking at it right now.
It's really paid off. So I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, it was.
Well, it's fantastic.
It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And then, do you want to ask about what you're featured in, Gypsy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So recently, I had the honor of being in his brand new book, Ken's brand new book. So if you go to detectorist.com, you can see the cover there. It's called Beneath Our Feet, Volume 1. And I hear, he's planning several volumes. So go ahead, Ken, if you don't mind. Tell us maybe what exactly inspired your book and how you got going on that and how someone can go about getting one.
Yeah, so the on my site, there's a link that says store, and it's got information about the book in the store, but it takes you right to Amazon. I was going to try to do some independent printing, but I had a lot of quality issues, so I gave that. I was trying to keep the book at less than $20 for the hardcover. So the only way to do that was do independent printing, but the print quality was horrible, and I didn't want that associated with my book. I wanted a quality book, which is why it's on Amazon. But then I just made a paperback version for $14.99. So there's a very cheap version if you want it, and then there's the hardcover. But the book came into being. I thought of the book project like 4 or 5 years ago. And ever since I got detectorist.com, I've been trying to buy detectorists.com. And haven't been successful. And I figured if I ever got it, I would do a book called Detectorists and feature people from all over the world and their finds. I hadn't seen anything like it. I thought that'd be a cool thing to do. And I finally got the domain this year.
Nice.
So I'm like, all right. So I was going to have the Detectorist book. The website detectorist.com was going to be a site just for the book. But as I started kind of setting up the project and standing everything up, I realized when I thought of the project, I only had like 1,000 or 2,000 followers on Facebook, and almost 10,000 now. And if I separated the book from the Facebook page, people couldn't see updates. It wouldn't be like it would lose visibility into the project. I'm like, it kind of makes sense to kind of combine everything together. So even though I got detectorist.com, it's just pointing to Detectorist, and then I changed the name of the book. The initial name, I think, was like Stuff in the Dirt or Things in the Dirt. And my wife laughed at that name. She's like, that's a horrible name. I'm like, oh, okay. And maybe I should change it. Then it was Under My Feet. And then I'm like, well, that's not really all detectors. Maybe Under Our Feet. And then it iterated to Beneath Our Feet. And that's how I got the name for that. So it's people from U.S., England, Scotland, Wales, Monaco. I think that's all of them. Yeah, out in Canada. Yeah, so there's people from all over the world, and it was a really enjoyable process because people were so eager to share their finds and their stories. It was like I was there with them when they dug it. They were so happy to share their information and be part of the project. So it was really nice. It met a lot of people I didn't know too, so that was cool.
That is neat, yeah. Yeah, we would have never known about you, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless, your book. So thank you for, I feel honored to be a part of your first edition. And
I get Amanda in there for volume 2, right?
Yeah.
Going to get her there for volume 2?
Amazing, yeah. I already recommended you, Linda,
Thanks.
to him. When I asked him on the show, I mentioned getting you in there, possible. Yeah. So that is one wonderful thing. I'm sure it's probably opened you up to meeting loads of new people. And I'm sure, besides that, sometimes what that does is it opens other opportunities for metal detecting different places and traveling as well. And I'm sure expanding those things overseas as well, those contacts.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I knew of Mark Hoover too, like for example, but I never really spoken to him. And him and I have gotten very close throughout this process, and we talk often. So, and I get his wife's jam, which is awesome. So,
that's cool.
She makes amazing jam.
I have heard that. Yep, I've heard that.
It's no lie. It's really good.
Could you tell us what perhaps one of your favorite finds might be?
So the one in the book is one of the Horde coins. There's the one where Brandon, he was live streaming it when I dug it. A tractor had rolled through. We had found 6 so far, and I think it was the last day. We had right. His last hole was a hammered too, so we had only dug 5 so far. It was the last day, and a tractor had driven through the field, and like one that lifts the hay bales. It's got these really tall, thin tires, And when it drove through the field, that was the year that it snowed, and there was snow everywhere, and it melted, and everything was just, that field was like a giant slush bucket, right? But when it drove through the field, it dug like 2 foot deep tire tracks to the middle of the field. So what I was doing is I was walking in the tire tracks and swinging the side of the tire track, because I had 2 feet of ground that I could swing up and down on inside the tire track on each side. And in one of those tire tracks, I popped that really nice. I mean, it looks like it was dropped the day it was minted. It's beautiful. So that would probably be my favorite hammered coin. My Roman silver denarius is my favorite, probably my favorite coin out of them all, but it's not very photogenic. It's not the most beautiful thing, right? But to me, it doesn't matter. I don't care what it's a Titus 79 to 81 AD Roman silver denarius. He opened the Colosseum. He was the emperor when Pompeii exploded. So that to me, probably, like, if I had to keep just one, even though it's not real pretty, that's probably what I would keep. Mm-hmm. And then in the States, I found a cob from like a $1.
Awesome.
So
yeah, that's cool.
I had a guy who was actually reviewed it, because I thought it was a 2 that was cut, because like half the cross is missing, and on the back, half, kind of like a third of the shield is missing. And he's like, no, based on the size of it, it's a $1 stamp, but the guy just is off center. He goes, it wasn't cut after it was minted. This type of coin, it's rare to find one in the later years. So it's probably mid-1600s. So that was pretty cool. That was on a farm field in New Jersey. And then on that same farm field, I found an 1814 or 1816. I think it's an 1816. $50. So that was pretty cool. So those are probably my favorite ones. I'm like a coin shooter. Like, I found a lot of really cool buttons and GW buttons, but for me, it's the coins really call my name.
The coins really, okay. Do you have a favorite relic that you found?
Well, probably I have 2 GWs, GW buttons. The first one I found, I didn't know what it was, which after I found out what it was, I was a little disappointed, because I lost the opportunity to be excited about what I was digging. Right? I popped it out of the ground. I'm like, yo, what's this big ass button? I said it to my friend. He comes running over, because I didn't know there had been 2 found in that field already. So he already kind of knew what it was when he was running over to me. And he goes, you don't deserve this. And I go, what? He goes, it's a GW. I'm like, what's a GW? He's like, it's a George Washington button. I'd been detecting like 3 months at this point. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I was happy I found it, but I was a little disappointed. I lost the feeling of knowing what I found when I dug it out of the hole.
You didn't know the epicness of it.
Yeah. About 6 months later, I'm on the same field, and there's an old couple walking the path around it. It was a big farm field, but the township had put like a walking path around it. And there was an older couple, had to be in their late 80s, early 90s, really like old couple. And they were asking questions about what I was doing. They're like, you're not going to find any coins out there. You know, if they were thinking modern coins. I'm like, no. And I was showing them some of the things I found from the website. And as they walked away, I'm like, oh, let me go back where I found my button. Popped another one. But I knew what it was when I dug it. And I called them over, and I ran back over to them. I'm like, look, this is actually what I was talking about. And the cool part was it had 2 holes in it. And I always thought that the shank, there was a part of the button broken and the shank was missing. And I thought it punched holes in it again and repurposed it as like another button. But when I was talking to Dave Weiss about his GWs, and I sent him pictures of mine, he's like, oh, you got a whizzer. I'm like, what's a whizzer? They would make these. Yeah, and he told me. So one of my GWs is a whizzer. So even when I was doing my book, I learned something, because I never found the button with a hole in it before, so I never knew what a whizzer was. I had never seen anybody dig a whizzer button, but one of my GWs is a whizzer.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, and I didn't
so that
even
was cool.
know they made them out of the buttons either. I always thought they made them out of the coins, the Wizards. So I didn't even know that.